Roland here. So we are in the van, landed in Accra, a 2-hour flight delay out of JFK. So I hate that the sun is going down, so it limits what we can do today, but still glad to be here. It's a lot different temperature than it was in, what was it, 25 degrees in New York?
25, yeah.
So we're plus 55 degrees. So looking forward to the next 10 days. My second time here. I want to see how much stuff has changed since 2008. So time to rock and roll.
So it's not bad enough that Roland trolled us about the temperature in video, but now we're able to join him right now. So let's take a moment and toss to our brother Roland, who's connect with us. Roland, thank you so much for connecting with us, and let me be my pleasure to tell you, Roland Martin, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, Ray. So we are here. We literally just arrived in Cape Coast. And so normally what happens is when folks have come to the slave castle here, what they've often done is they simply come to the front door, but because this is called the year of return, what happens is they've actually led us out to where where our ancestors, the slaves, would literally walk down these steps to get onto the slave ship. And so that was just a ceremony here honoring that. And so what they're doing right now is leading folks down to the water there. Take the backpack off right here. And so they're leading folks down here. And what you'll see is, you see this is literally where they will walk down. The door of return is right back there. And so they're coming for you. And so this Sheena Mead and Desmond Mead, they work with Amendment 4. And I'm here with them. So that's Sheena Mead right there, who's about to, she's about to touch the water there. So this is the ceremony they're doing, everyone, wanting them to touch the water, in essence, to connect with ancestors who boarded slave ships in the transatlantic slave trade.
Roland, can you give us what's the environment there like? What's the mood? How are folks responding?
Well, first of all, it's obviously for many people, it's extremely spiritual. It's extremely personal. For some, the group I'm with, I got you. Hold on. The group I'm with, I'm live in the United States. Hold on. The group I'm with, this is the first time they've been here. I was here in 2008, and so as you see, they're there. So this is Desmond Mead, the brother who lived in Amendment 4 in Florida. That's him about to walk down into the water as well. And so that's why several of them keep asking me to take my shoes off. I realize that I'm live with the show. But so what's happening is so literally that door, you can't see it here. But that door was the door the slaves were laid down in chains. They would come down these steps, literally where the folks are walking down right now. And they will walk them down these steps onto this beach right here, and we'll walk them out to the slave ship and never to return back to the motherland. And so part of what the ceremony is about, they put above the door, they put a sign called the door of return. And so now what they're doing is that their feet in the water and then walk back into the slave castle as a way of us returning back to the motherland.
That sounds powerful, Roland. Are there folks that are there with your group that may not be from the United States? Is this an international trip, or are these just descendants of those who are from the United States?
Well, no, our group, obviously, from the United States, we were met here by different queen mothers as well. Right here, this woman here, this is Sheena. Sheena's a 70-year-old mother, her first time here as well. And so while we're sitting here doing this, I know, I got you. So I'm live right now, so let me go ahead and just take this off. So this is Gilbert, of course, with God Box Tours. We're live back in the United States. Gilbert, explain to people what's happening.
All right, so we're in Cape Coast Castle. It's late night. I think it's almost midnight, actually. We're here. Before we go into the castle, this doesn't happen often. So we're going down into the water. The water's pretty rough right now, which means the ancestors are responding to us. After the libation that we poured, you see the water's coming in. They're happy. They're taking us in, so we're going into the water. They're going to give the ancestors going to give us our blessings. And then we go into the dungeons at night to feel and experience what our ancestors experienced.
And Gilbert, most people don't come here at night.
No, not at all. This actually is never done. This is done with the God Box Foundation and the God Box Tours because we want to have a spiritual experience with the people. It's not just a regular tour. We come in at night, and we're fortunate to have this access so that we can give people the experience that they really want, traveling all those miles to have that spiritual journey.
All right, Gilbert, thanks a lot. So, Ray, we're about to step down. They're going to help us down here. And so we're just going to step down. I got you.
Roland, if you can hear us as you're stepping down, what is the age range of those visitors that you're with, the folks you're with?
Actually, it's interesting, man. I just stepped down here, so you see, I'm here in the water, and so let's turn this around. So you've got folks who are of all ages. It was interesting, man. On the flight here. It was one Sikh gentleman, two white gentlemen, and the whole plane was black. There were so many young brothers who were here as well. So although they're not in our group, there were a number of people. Ghana they normally get 75,000 visas they actually issue each year. But right now, what I've been told, they've issued anywhere from 700,000 to 1 million visas in 2019 alone because of the year of return. And so it has really been an amazing experience for so many people who've never even been here. And so what you see here, I hope you can see it, these are all the fishing boats. These are all the fishing boats here. So we're literally, like where I'm standing right now was the beach where, and as you see right here, where our ancestors would come down. And so for so many people, this is really an emotional experience for them to be able to experience this. And so many African Americans have been traveling here, and many are coming here for the next several days. Coachella is December 29th, but many folks are coming to the two slave castles here one in Cape Coast and also in Elmira. I went to both of those when I was here in 2008.
Roland, you can see the folks moving around in the water. I know that you've studied religion and theology a great deal, particularly African-based theologies. Can you tell your viewers how important and symbolic it is that folks are engaging the water and what water means to African people?
Well, as they said, first of all, they pour libations. And so what this is about is connecting with those ancestors. Remember, many of them who died, who never even reached Brazil, who never even reached North America as well. And so earlier we started with, we started this whole deal with actually Christian leader, Muslim leader, and Rastafarian leader as well, giving people an understanding of all the different religions here in Ghana as well. So I'm about to step up to right here. I got you.
Yeah, my knees work. That's what we do.
Hold on 1 second.
That's what we do.
I got you. I appreciate it. So we're going up here, Ray. So these are the steps up, and so this symbolizes African Americans returning. And so as you see, as I'm walking up here, and that's when you see them here for the door of return.
Roland.
So hold on 1 second.
Go ahead.
I think Gilbert's about to speak, so hold on.
So now that we touch the ancestors and beat it down, we got the blessing. I hope y'all felt that. Hold that moment, hold that feeling. Because you're about to go in. Like I said, I don't believe in going slaves and we were brought into the castle. We're coming back home. You got to go. You probably go and return out of the castle. You know what? And you want to make this symbolic.
Okay.
What we like to do is we ask you, as you're going through this door, turn around and walk backwards. We rewinded all of this. This is how we bring our ancestors with us. So when we're walking through this door, turn around, we'll step through the door, you can look, you can turn back. Turn all four, once you get to the circle, do a full circle. Around like this, walk in. Can we do that? All right, 360. So you ready? We're gonna knock on the door of return. We're gonna knock on it 3 times.
Where's the other one?
We're gonna knock on the door. I'm gonna knock on the door.
There you go.
You ready?
Yeah.
Understand this moment. You can come forward. Understand this moment. This doesn't happen often. And most people that have taken this tour before come to the castle. This is a different experience. It's going to be dark inside. This is deliberate. You turned off the lights inside. You might not see too much, but you're going to feel everything. That's what we want. That's the spiritual aspect that we want people to feel. Tomorrow we'll come back. We'll do a tour. You can see everything. But tonight, I want you to feel everything. So we turned off all the lights. I want your senses to be up. So we're gonna do 3 times. Light off. Make your head jam. Lights. Yeah. Remember when you get to this door, walk this way. Once you get to the door, make a 360, and then face forward.
Got it. Thank you.
Give us one down.
John, light.
This is a female slave dungeon right here.
So Ray, the purpose they're keeping the lights off, so I want to just be able to hear. That's what I see.
Yeah, Roland. I was just going to brief the viewers who may be just.
One second.
Okay.
1 second.
You take a lantern inside. You want to come in. This is a female dungeon.
Oh, lantern? You just want a lantern?
Yeah.
All right. You want the light on or off?
So,
Up to you.
I mean, yeah. You just want the light off.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a step down?
Yeah. Step down. Got it.
Can you say this was a female dungeon?
Thousands.
For those viewers who may just be joining us, we're with Roland Martin live in Ghana. He's in the Cape Coast in one of the slave dungeons. That's why you may not be seeing light in this picture, because as he moves through the dungeon, everything is dark. to complete the symbolism and the feeling of those who made the voyage of no return. This is the year of the return in 2019 of Ghana, so we are now going back to Roland Martin, who's in Ghana right now.
As you can see, you got reeds over here.
These are the various reads that people have to various ancestors. They are on the walls here. Many people come leave mementos because literally we're in a room that, I mean, you know, they packed so many folks into this this dungeon here. That photo, I'll tell you.
For those folks who are logging on and just seeing for the first time, we're with our brother Roland Martin as he moves through one of the tunnels in Ghana. He is there on a tour with other black leaders from the United States of America, going back in 2019 for the year of the return, marking 400 years since the first enslaved Africans came to these coasts. So for those of us who may just be joining us, and all you see on your screen is just a dark picture, and you may not hear much, you may not see much, is because right now it's about midnight or somewhere around that midnight hour over in Cape Coast, Ghana, where our host, Roland Martin, is.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our folks at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. So if you want to take advantage, you better get in now. Of course, hemp is a cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana, but it won't get you high. Scott is sad. Now, folks, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It's an investment opportunity for you and the full folks at 420 Real Estate have a simple business model. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants, people like Chris. They are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Now, all you got to do is invest as little as $200. Monique, you got that. In the crowdfunding campaign, up to $10,000. Amisha, some of that Sinclair money. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
The thing that you're seeing, though, is that, and I think it's going to continue. There are folks who don't give a damn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
There are a significant number of people who come next year. They're going to say, I don't give a damn about them kids on the border. I don't care if this man lies. I don't care if he makes stuff up. I don't care that he's handed over the Department of Interior and the EPA to the oil and gas industry. I don't care if he gave a tax cut that benefit the wealthy. I don't care if this man uses insults against women. I don't care if people of color don't support this man. There are white people in America who are absolutely afraid of this train that is coming. And it is a black and brown train. Donald Trump is their great white hope. Donald Trump represents, in fact, Rudy Giuliani said before the election that Trump was our last hope. We knew exactly what he was talking about. Ron Brownstein actually sent a tweet out, and I shared it. And this is what he said that I thought was extremely interesting when you look at all these images in terms of these Republicans who are coming out there. I'm going to pull this tweet up in a second because I think it's important to understand really what's going on here. Let's see. Here we go. Go to my iPad, Henry. Ron Brownstein. Whatever you consider the merits of impeachment, the image of an endless procession of angry, white, and preponderantly male Republican legislators railing bitterly against a diverse Democratic caucus offers a chilling preview of how our politics may evolve as U.S. grows more diverse. Now, Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, I can't say Donald Trump has appointed these judges. It's really been the Federalist Society and Mitch McConnell. 88% of the 173 judges, and they're going to move 13 this week. Of the 173 judges, 88% are white men. They haven't even been able to find a token African American. Not one. What does that tell you? It tells you that white fear is driving the Trump presidency. White people, not all white people, but white voters, he presses their buttons on illegal immigration. He presses their buttons on race. When he calls sons of bitches players who protested, he knew exactly who he was talking about. And that's what we're dealing with here. They know what's coming. Doesn't matter if you got 3 white candidates at the top on the Democratic side. They know what's coming. Fox News the other day put up the conservative squad. Y'all saw that?
Yes, I've seen
Okay.
it.
Which, oh my God, it was hilarious.
Their white mirror.
4 white women.
Yeah.
You got Presley, black, Tlaib, Muslim, Ilhan Omar, Muslim, Ocasio-Cortez, Latina. They said, we need our own squad. 4 white women. That's all you need to understand with what's going on in the protection of Donald Trump.
Well, if you look at the hearings that we saw today, I mean, it's a visible contrast between the people who are speaking for Trump, basically white men, and the people who are speaking against him, a really diverse group of people. So this is literally white America's last gasp. And again, we're not talking about all white people. We're talking about the white people who want to maintain a predatory capitalist system, the white people who are, as you say, frightened of black and brown people and want to keep their little bit of power. It's not a little, they want to keep their power by whatever means necessary. So all this integrity, all this one nation individual, that goes out the window when they're afraid that they're going to lose something.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
We pray that the history of this day will guide us to a better future for our nation. I yield back.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Long.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And we have never, ever in the history of this country seen a presidency like this one. Once the president was sworn in, 19 minutes later, the Washington Post said impeachment begins today. 1 million women marched the next day on Washington. Bank of America, Starbucks, both that supported Hillary Clinton, had their windows broken out here in Washington because people were so upset that this man was elected president. of the United States. He's had his head held underwater for almost 3 years now, never coming up for a breath of air. Just keep pushing him down. Lowest black unemployment ever, lowest Hispanic unemployment ever, highest stock market ever, the very lowest unemployment in years. And
Gentleman from
reserve the balance
California.
of my time.
I yield back.
Reserves?
Yes.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Fortenberry.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have been concerned since the beginning of this impeachment process that it has been driven by a predetermined guilty verdict. It's unfair, it's wrong, and now every future president, Democrat or Republican, will have to worry that the impeachment process will be driven as a blunt force political instrument. It's been said that this day is sad. It's not sad, it's regrettable, but this day will end shortly. The House has had its cathartic moment. Tomorrow will begin a new day. Let's get back to work. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman.
Of course, you're watching. Let's go back to that's the impeachment on the House floor, where Republicans and Democrats have been speaking for the last several hours. Frankly, it's been lots of comedy on the side of the Republican Party. Y'all, they've literally had individuals comparing the impeachment of Donald Trump to Jesus being crucified and also to Pearl Harbor. If you want to talk about how crazy it is, now you just heard one of the Republicans talk about how all these things are happening and how unemployment is so low. That has nothing to do with a president lying and a president asking a foreign entity to investigate a political rival. Nothing. And so we're almost at the point of where this is over. Because normally what happens all day, it's a Republican, a Democrat, Republican, and Democrat. And so the last three individuals who have been talking were Republicans. They've given them 30 seconds, so clearly there's a time limit. You know what? Let's just go back. Let's hear some more of the comedy. Go right ahead.
I'm voting no. Impeachment is not in the best interest of this country. And in fact, it has only deepened the partisan divide that truly plagues this country. When the sun comes up tomorrow, I pray with all my heart that the anger and the division in this chamber will give way to an honorableness and a productivity and a time of working together. I yield back.
Gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, I reserve.
All right, so again, and so I think the Democrats are about to speak now. So let's go back, because it looked like they went back to the Democratic side. Let's hear who on the Democratic side who's coming up.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. True.
Yeah, that's one of the Republican speakers. All right, so earlier, Nancy Pelosi got everything started. Speaker of the House, where she laid out exactly why Donald Trump is going to be impeached by the House, only the third time in American history that has taken place. President Andrew Johnson, as well as President Bill Clinton. Here's what Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, had to say earlier today.
My colleagues, this morning and every morning, when we come together, members rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. Every day, all across America, children in school, members of the military, officials, and those civically engaged also pledge allegiance to the flag. Let us recall what that pledge says. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The republic for which it stands is what we are here to talk about today. A republic, if we can keep it. We gather today under the dome of this temple of democracy to exercise one of the most solemn powers that this body can take, the impeachment of the President of the United States. No member, regardless of party or politics, comes to Congress to impeach a president. But every one of us, as our first act as a member of Congress, stood on this historic House floor before our beautiful American flag and raised our hands in this sacred oath. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. For 230 years, members have taken that sacred oath, which makes us custodians of the Constitution. When our founders declared independence and established a new nation, they crafted a system of government unlike one ever seen before, a republic, starting with the sacred words, "We the people." For centuries, Americans have fought and died to defend democracy for the people. But very sadly now, our founders' vision of a republic is under threat from actions from the White House. That is why today, as Speaker of the House, I solemnly and sadly open the debate on the impeachment of the President of the United States. If we do not act now, we would be derelict in our duty. It is tragic that the President's reckless actions make impeachment necessary. He gave us no choice. What we are discussing today is
All right, folks, now if y'all really want to laugh, here is an interview that Wolf Blitzer did with Donald Trump, where literally, he talks about impeaching Bush for lying. The greatest liar who's ever been in the Oval Office actually said impeach a Republican president for lying. Y'all watch this.
Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker.
Well, you know, when she first got in and was named Speaker, I met her, and I'm very impressed by her. I think she's a very impressive person. I like her a lot. But I was surprised that she didn't do more in terms of Bush and going after Bush. It was almost, it just seemed like she was going to really look to impeach Bush and get him out of office, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing.
Impeaching him?
Absolutely, for the war. For the war.
Because of the conduct of the
Well, he
war.
lied. He got us into the war with lies. And, I mean, look at the trouble Bill Clinton got into with something that was totally unimportant. And they tried to impeach him, which was nonsense. And yet Bush got us into this horrible war with lies, by lying, by saying they had weapons of mass destruction, by saying all sorts of things that turned out not to be true.
You gotta love it. There's always a video or a tweet of this fool, Donald Trump, saying something. He said George W. Bush, Republican, should have been impeached for lying about the war. Ain't that grand? Here's some other video from earlier today of the sparring back and forth on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C.
Madam Speaker, I rise today feeling the full weight of my duty as a member of this august body, reflecting upon our oath of office to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It is my sincere belief that under the circumstances that bring us here today, there is only one path for us to take to fulfill that oath. Thomas Paine, in this first of a series of pamphlets entitled The American Crisis, published 243 years ago tomorrow, intoned that these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldiers and sunshine patriots will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. These words were written at a time when our founders were rebelling against the tyrannical rule of the British monarchy. Today, we have a president who seems to believe he is a king or above the law. Paine warned us that so unlimited a power can belong only to God Almighty. My faith leads me to take very seriously the final words of our oath to faithfully discharge the duties of the office, so help me God. Madam Speaker, 3 days ago, I joined with a bipartisan delegation of our colleagues celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. We laid wreaths at the memorials of Generals George Patton and Anthony McCullough. We visited foxholes that were occupied by some brave soldiers who fought in some of the worst winter weather ever visited upon a battlefield. And we visited the Luxembourg American Cemetery, the final resting place of thousands of them and General George Patton. They were not summer soldiers in their efforts 75 years ago to preserve the Republic, and we must not be sunshine patriots today in our efforts to protect the Constitution upon which this great Republic stands. While our fight is not in the trenches of battlefields, but in the hallowed halls of this Congress, our duty is no less patriotic.
George Washington, in his farewell address to the nation, counseled America that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. It is in that spirit that we proceed today. Donald Trump pressured a foreign government to target an American citizen for political gain and at the same time withheld without justification $391 million in military aid to a vulnerable Ukraine as part of a scheme to solicit foreign interference in an American election. That is unacceptable. That is unconscionable. That is unconstitutional. There are some who cynically argue that the impeachment of this president will further divide an already fractured union. But there is a difference between division and clarification. Slavery once divided the nation, but emancipators rose up to clarify that all men are created equally. Suffrage once divided the nation, but women rose up to clarify that all voices must be heard in our democracy. Jim Crow once divided the nation, but civil rights champions rose up to clarify that all are entitled to equal protection under the law. There is a difference between division and clarification. We will hold this president accountable for his stunning abuse of power. We will hold this president accountable for undermining our national security. We will hold this president accountable for corrupting our democracy. We will impeach Donald John Trump. We will clarify that in America, no one is above the law.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to protect our democracy. Today, we take a stand against corruption and abuses of power. What we are doing here today is not only patriotic, it is uniquely American. America is a story of ordinary people confronting abuses of power with a steadfast pursuit of justice. Throughout our history, the oppressed have been relegated to the margins by the powerful, and each time we have fought back, deliberate in our approach, clear-eyed. Each generation has fought for the preservation of our democracy, and that is what brings us to the House floor today. Efficient and effective in the pursuit of our truth. Congress has done its due diligence. Today we send a clear message. We will not tolerate abuses of power from the President of the United States of America. The future of this nation rests in our hands. It is with a heavy heart but a resolved one, and because I believe our democracy is worth fighting for, I will vote to impeach Donald J. Trump, and I urge my colleagues to do the same.
And still I rise, Madam Speaker. I rise because I love my country. And Madam Speaker, shall any man be beyond justice? This is the question posed in 1787 by George Mason at the Constitutional Convention. Shall any man be beyond justice? Madam Speaker, if this president is allowed to thwart the efforts of Congress with a legitimate impeachment inquiry, the president will not only be above the law, he will be beyond justice. We cannot allow any person to be beyond justice in this country. In the name of democracy, On behalf of the Republic and for the sake of the many who are suffering, I will vote to impeach, and I encourage my colleagues to do so as well. No one is beyond justice in this country.
Throughout this process, the American people have learned of bungling foreign policy decisions, but we have not heard evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of bribery or extortion. Allegations of these two crimes aren't even mentioned in the articles of impeachment being debated today. But today, we have seen a rushed process divide our country. Today, accusations have been hurled at each other, questioning one another's integrity. Today, a dangerous precedent will be set, impeachment becoming a weaponized political tool. We know how this partisan process will end this evening, but what happens tomorrow? Can this chamber put down our swords and get back to work for the American people? This institution has a fabled history of passing legislation that has not only changed our country, but has inspired the world. This feat has been possible because this experiment we call America has one perpetual goal: make a more perfect union. We can contribute to this history if we recognize the simple fact that way more unites our country than divides us. Tomorrow, can we start focusing on that?
Madam Speaker, I rise with a heavy heart to support this resolution. When we came to Washington in 1961 to go on the Freedom Rise, we chose that day. When we came here on August 28, 1963, for the March on Washington, it was joyful. We met with a young president, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. When we came here on August 6, 1965, for the signing of the Voting Rights Act, we were excited, hopeful. We met with President Lyndon Johnson, but today, this day, we didn't ask for this. This is a sad day. It is not a day of joy. Our nation is founded on the principle that we do not have kings, we have presidents. And the Constitution is our compasses. When you see something that is not right, not just, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Our children and their children will ask us, what did you do? What did you say? For some, this vote may be hard, but we have a mission and a mandate to be on the right side of history.
Of course, about 25 minutes ago, Auntie Maxine Waters, she spoke on the floor. Most everybody else who talked had a minute. They didn't give her a minute. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the rules of debate won't allow me to cite all of the reasons why this president should be impeached. There are many. However, Madam Speaker and members of this House, to quote the late Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. This day was not inevitable, but it was predictable because this president has shown himself time and time again to believe that he is above the law, and he has no respect for our Constitution or our democracy. Based on all that we know about Donald Trump, we could have predicted he would have abused the power of the president by corruptly soliciting the government of Ukraine and the Ukrainian President Zelensky to publicly announce investigations into his political opponent, former Vice President Joseph R. Biden. This impeachment resolution includes evidence that this president withheld $391 million of taxpayer funds that Congress appropriated for the purpose of providing vital military and security assistance to Ukraine to oppose Russian aggression. Another blatant abuse of power. Our investigations revealed that this president advanced a discredited theory promoted by Russia, alleging that Ukraine, rather than Russia, interfered in the 2016 United States presidential election for corrupt purposes in pursuit of personal political benefit. Never before in our history have we experienced a president who has so clearly conducted himself in a manner offensive to and subversive of the Constitution and directed his cabinet members, executive branch agencies, and other White House officials to defy lawful subpoenas from Congress. Was he attempting to hide wrongdoing? It is without question that this president has demonstrated that he will remain a threat to national security and the Constitution if allowed to remain in office, and has acted in a manner grossly incompatible with self-governance and the rule of law, because at every turn he has shown us who he is. It is no secret that this president could have been impeached a long time ago. Today, we stand here with an irrefutable case and an indisputable set of facts that this president absolutely abused his power and obstructed Congress. Any other individual who would have been caught conducting themselves in the way this president has would have been prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It is shameful that any members of this House are willing to disregard the Constitution, turn a blind eye to hard facts, and ignore a confession from the president himself. History will remember those who were willing to speak truth to power. Yes, I called for Trump's impeachment early. This is our country. Our foremothers and our forefathers shed their blood to build and defend this democracy. I refuse to have it undermined. I wholeheartedly support this resolution. I'm proud that in the final analysis, justice will have been served in America and Donald Trump will have been impeached.
Ladies, time's expired. Gentleman from Georgia.
Madam Speaker.
All right now. Congresswoman Maxine Waters there. The conversation continues, folks, on the floor of the House. Joining me right now on the panel, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College. Also, Erica Savage-Wilson, a host, Savage Politics podcast, as well as Monique Presley, political analyst, crisis manager, and attorney. This is the day Donald Trump is dreading. He has fled D.C. He's having some rally. Having one of his Love Fest rallies from his MAGA folks somewhere in Michigan, trying to avoid this. He wants to change the channel, but the bottom line is his ass about to get impeached.
Oh, yeah. And every channel has this on every channel, so he can't change the channel. It's where it is. But you know, Roland, you were talking about the hijinks and the comedy. The biggest comedy, he compared himself to the Salem witch trials.
That letter he wrote to Pelosi was hilarious. And if you want to talk about how some folks have sold out, Hugh Hewitt, conservative, used to make some sense. So this morning I was in Atlanta for a meeting today, and y'all, poor Hugh.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He actually tweeted, Lord, let me find this thing, y'all. It was so funny. He actually
put that whole
tried to suggest that the Trump letter is going to go down in history. And people are going to be studying it as the way not to leak. Y'all, it was so laughable. I mean, even other conservatives were like, Hugh. Bruh, stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop it. I mean, what's amazing to me, Erica, is that here you have individuals, Hugh Hewitt, Mark Levin, Sarah Lindsey Graham, all these folks spoke truthfully about Donald Trump before he get elected. They have sold their souls, Glenn Beck included, numerous folks on Fox News, have sold their souls to somebody who don't give a damn about them. Somebody who will throw his own people under the bus and bag it up, roll over, bag it up, and roll over.
Right.
That, to me, that means these people have no principles, no morals, no values.
Absolutely. The grand old party has died as we know it. And I think it's also important for people to see the level of castration that these supposed leaders have allowed themselves on public domains in the name of power and other things that we don't yet know. And I think that this is also a reason why it is of the utmost importance for people to understand that we cannot afford for a repeat of 2016, that people that are talking about withholding their votes are folks that have no idea of how power is actually constructed. And so what we have got to do as a responsible body, as a collective of people, is over-index, because it is absolutely possible for these people to be voted out of their seat, because there is nothing that we are seeing publicly that they won't do to appease their Lord and Savior, Donald John Trump.
Monique, when you look at where these Republicans stand, and you listen to the arguments that Adam Schiff a few moments ago said, they won't defend what he did.
Mm-hmm.
They won't defend his conduct. They only say the process wasn't fair.
Right. Right. Now, and in the law for all of the ones, and for the first, I think, seemed like 16 or 17 people that the GOP put up, it was all of the lawyers in the bunch. I was trying to figure out what the rhyme or reason was to who was getting most time, less time, because they weren't going by seniority, whereas with the Democrats, it seemed like they worked, they started big, worked their way through some of the younger members, and then got back up again. But when there's no substance, you argue process. I mean, that's what is done in the legal field. That's what's done here in this, congressional
like my client
hall.
guilty as hell. So let me
and see, but due process matters, and process in this case for Donald Trump matters, but they don't even have a strong process argument, because they're arguing against rules that everybody agreed to.
Right, absolutely.
And the thing, but there's been some mastery, in my opinion, in terms of the Democrats. First, when it was Nadler, then it transitioned to Schiff. They were ready.
It was Schiff and Nadler.
No, Nadler started the day.
No, I'm sorry, today. I'm sorry. The whole impeachment inquiry began with Schiff, the Intelligence Committee, then went to Judiciary.
Right,
Go ahead.
but for today, when after all of they moved to, for every one of these, they start with, let's go home and try again tomorrow. I mean, they do all of those.
Right.
And then when they finally got into it and started having these, you get 3 hours, you get 3 hours, how you going to use your 3 hours? And everybody's reserving and yielding and reserving. But what Nadler did, every time one of the GOP members would say something, he had a 30-second response prepared. They weren't ready like that. They had to go ahead and catch up. But what he kept saying was, and now still 10 people have gotten up and argued against process, and not one has argued for the legitimacy of the actions of this president. And that's what I'm hoping the American people will get out of this. There is no argument, because if these Republicans had one, I mean, they're sycophants. They bend over, they genuflect for him. They literally, lick his behind. So if they had an argument that they could come up with, they would have given it by now. But nobody has one. And I also saw today an interview, Wolf Blitzer played an interview with the president before he was president in 2008.
Oh, yeah,
Man, the decade has not been kind to that man's mental state. I mean, Donald Trump.
Duh.
There has been significant decline.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. CNN's poll. Trump's approval.
I was just about to refer that.
Now, remember, he got 53% of white female vote. Approval numbers down to 42%. Now, I said Donald Trump cannot have even a 5% drop among white women to win. He needs those numbers. White men, 54%. Again, I need y'all to understand, what did I tell y'all? I told you in the last election, 71% of the electorate was white. This election will likely be the first time in American history where less than 70% of the electorate will be white, which is why black men, black women, Hispanics, Asians must maximize their numbers to offset whites having almost 70% of all votes cast. But look at this approval rating. White women, 42%, white men, 54%, Hispanic women, 23%, Hispanic men, 37%, black women, 3%.
Yes.
I don't know who they are. Black men, 15%.
Who the hell are they?
Right.
No, I can tell you. I'm telling you.
You know
No,
my
no, no.
theory on who they are.
No.
Which is what I was going to talk about for the rest of the show if somebody
Who's
would
that?
let me. It's the hidden apathy. You're talking about the people who don't care, and you went through those I don't cares, I don't cares, I don't cares. Black, educated men with money are having the apathetic streak that led them in numbers that were 5 times my sister's in voting for that man in the first place, and still are 5 times now as much in approval of this heinous, ridiculous man right now. It is a question of if he added something to the wallet, or if he did not take something from the wallet, or if he provided a job. People are not just, he doesn't just separate and parse white and everybody else. He splits up in between the everybody else till all you are in is your little silo, where what you're looking at is your particular house. And if your house is good, then you don't care. ADO's got their issues, right? And so they seem right now fine if Donald Trump gets elected again, because nobody else is offering a specific agenda, which means a check, which means reparations.
Which is ridiculous.
So now we got to write them off. Then, you know, the Hispanic people on that poll, I'm like, do they even see the border? Do they know that the babies that are in the cages are their babies? And they're approving because in the Hispanic community, there's a large subset, Cuban, that relates as white.
Right.
And support this man. Listen,
Right.
you gotta see through. It's
well,
the third
generation.
No.
brown.
But you also, but you cannot overlook the fact that among Latinos, you cannot overlook the sway of the Catholic Church and the issue of abortion.
Yep.
You can't overlook that. But let me unpack the black male number. It's not just educated black men with money. It's not it. In 2012, there was a 9-point gap between black men and black women in Obama versus Romney. There was a 13-point gap between black men and black women, Hillary, Trump.
Yeah. Well,
The White House,
I want women.
Right.
they've known about that 15% for 9 months. The White House, I need y'all to hear me, I'm not pontificating. I'm telling you what I know. Absolutely understand, yes, I do talk to the White House. They believe they can get that to 20%. Because you have black men, a lot of them high school degrees, not college degrees, who feel as if the Democratic Party doesn't speak to them. That's one. But here's the other thing that
Giving away their jobs, care more about everybody
here's the
else than
other
them.
thing that we have to also deal with. Men, including black men, respond to strength.
Perceived strength.
And you know,
No, let me unpack this.
Okay, because all the women wrote.
No. I need you to understand.
Yeah.
When the amount of times I've covered the Nation of Islam. Folks, I don't understand. Why do black men respond to Farrakhan this way versus these preachers? I said strength. Black men, it's a strength thing. 2004. I remember the Associated Press did a story, the black barbershop, Philadelphia, I believe. And they said, these black barbers, they were talking, and the brother said, I'm gonna vote for Bush because Bush will kick your ass and he gonna mean it. Now you're like, I remember hearing the exact same thing in 2016. The quote was, he's full of it, but he means what he says.
It doesn't.
Now when you
it
hear
doesn't
that,
track for Trump though the way it did with Bush. I understand it with Bush.
No.
Trump is a whining voice.
No, but he may be whining, but he talks a lot of spit.
Just 1 second.
He talks a lot of spit.
So what happens is, you got somebody sitting there, and oh man, he talking tough. It's that John Wayne thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, yo, y'all can sit here and hear all of that, but here's how all the reasons why this man is screwing you while you praising him because he tough. The problem is not just condemning, like what the hell y'all thinking, but you gotta create a narrative where a person goes, oh damn, I ain't realized all that. Because all they're responding to is the strength.
Well, there's another piece of it.
Go ahead. The
other piece of it is patriarchy. I mean, black men, white men are into patriarchy. I mean, men first, women second. So when Trump says he's going to grab them there are men who are tickled by that or like it, or they want to grab somebody by the,
But I don't want you to I'm telling you.
I think those go hand in hand. Because strength is perceived as
I don't want you to overlook the strength part.
But that's
I'm saying this because in order to understand why I said 15, I now got to understand how I got to counter program. So black men, and the White House is doing it, which is why I say it right here. It was dangerous, the public pronunciations of Van Jones. And I say, I love my brother, but I said why it was dangerous. So when the White House, First Step Act, you have these black men who are responding to that, and I'm going, yeah. But the same White House has told U.S. attorneys prosecute to the maximum.
Absolutely.
The same White House has said get rid of consent decrees.
So symbolism.
So I got to factor why they're responding to know how to counter it.
But it's symbolism, Roland. When you have the First Step Act, and he's pardoned a handful of people who had drug offenses, that's symbolism. And the substance piece is, as you say, the consent decrees being nullified and all of that. And again, I think it goes back to the patriarchy issue and the extent to which all men are patriarchs.
Hold tight 1 second. Congressman Valdez is speaking.
Interference into U.S. elections. But then the day after the special counsel testified before Congress, the president, feeling undeterred and emboldened, said, called President Zelensky and pressured him to help him rig the elections, and chose to hold much-needed military aid over our allies' head until the president's demands were met. Now, I served 12 years on the hostage negotiations team, and I know that pressure and demands come in many forms. And in this scheme, we had both. I've enforced the laws and now I write the laws. But the laws mean nothing if the accused can destroy evidence, stop witnesses from testifying, and blatantly refuse to cooperate. I ask you to name somebody in your community or your family who can do that. I know the president said that he can get away with anything he wants to. I come today to tell you that no, he cannot, because no one is above the law and he shall be held accountable.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this moment, I yield for unanimous.
The reason I'm pushing back on the patriarchy is because you had two men who were running in 2012, Obama Romney. Will explains the 9 points. See, I'm not just looking at Hillary Clinton.
To the white people. White people are still patriarchy. White people are still in charge.
No. But what I'm saying is,
Obama, Romney, white men. Obama, black men.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we do not respect ourselves often as black people. Right. Black women are more critical than other black women when they're running for public office. Sisters are the ones who basically throw the shade. So if you look at a Romney, Obama, you're looking at the black people who think the white man's ice is colder.
Again, what I'm looking at is something that I've had this conversation with Tom Perez. He has said to me, they are aware this is a problem. They have been trying to counter that, but I'm telling you, Democrats had better be extremely scared of that 15%.
Oh yeah.
Because if that 15 goes to 17 or 18, in many ways what it does is it counters an increase in black female voter turnout. And so what Donald Trump is looking at, they're looking at margins. They ain't trying to win by 100,000 votes.
But that's
he only won by 78,000 votes.
But that's why he's being impeached, because they figured out a long time ago that the only real issue would be Biden, because Biden is the counterpuncher. He's the other person who will have strength. He's the other person that stands for the old guard. He's the other person that you really can't tell what's going to come out of his mouth. And if you say something, he's going to say something back to you. And for those who are interested in that, he presents that. And they saw him as a threat early on, and he's getting handed to him because of it.
LaTosha Brown with Black Voters Matter, a few months ago, she said, damn it, I just learned that, I think she said her daddy and her uncle, both engineers in Mississippi, voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
She was like, y'all need to pray. She said, let me just go ahead and just start praying right now.
Right, and I think that's why this is going to be a community vote, and I keep stressing over-indexing, because if I don't have faith that this is something that the DNC is going to tackle. I think that this is. Means,
Erica. Come on, political jargon.
I do not believe
over-indexing mean.
Over-indexing means everybody has to show up for the collard greens. Everybody has to show up. That means everybody of voting age has to show up and vote. And I do believe that the Gen Z generation, there's a lot of kind of focus on the millennials, which you have millennials that'll be turning 39, entering into their 40th year of life as young as mid-20s. We've got to start focusing on those that are 17, 18, and in their early 20s. But then also seeing that number of 15% black men, that does not shock me. But that's where we have, as a community, particularly black men, who do have platforms, who do have some type of check where they can go in and talk to these brothers to say, well, listen, though the appeal is to strong men, because that's just not something that we see in the United States, right? That's something that we're seeing across the geopolitical spectrum. We have folks over in the continent that do respond to Trump positively because he does show up as a strong man, not necessarily intelligent, but strong. So that's where, again, we have got to have people that do have arm in the community, that do have a level of political knowledge to say that, listen, this is not on the backs and on the laps and on the arms and the shoulders of black women. This is also on us as well. And let me say to you that while there is an appeal to strength, this is how it is killing you, your children, your auntie, your mama, your cousin, your all of those people as well.
But you know what? I did want to go back in terms of the archives, because when you talk about, you heard Congresswoman Val Demings there talk about this important deal, but I really think when you, because also here's the other piece. These are the same people who love waving the Constitution like they love waving the flag. And they always talk about the Constitution and the framers and the original intent and all of those different things. And it was Congresswoman Barbara Jordan on July 25th, 1974, during the Watergate hearings, the first black woman elected to Congress from the South since Reconstruction, who really broke down clearly the importance of a president following the Constitution. And this is what she had to say.
Recognize the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jordan, for the purpose of general debate, not to exceed a period of 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I join my colleague, Mr. Rangel, in thanking you for giving the junior members of this committee the glorious opportunity of sharing the pain of this inquiry. Mr. Chairman, you are a strong man, and it has not been easy, but we have tried as best we can to give you as much assistance as possible. Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people. Today, I am an inquisitor, and hyperbole would not be fictional and would not overstate the solemnness that I feel right now. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution. Who can so properly be the inquisitors for the nation as the representatives of the nation themselves? The subjects of its jurisdiction are those offenses which proceed from the misconduct of public men, and that's what we're talking about. In other words, from the abuse or violation of some public trust. It is wrong, I suggest, it is a misreading of the Constitution for any member here to assert that for a member to vote for an article of impeachment means that that member must be convinced that the president should be removed from office. The Constitution doesn't say that. The powers relating to impeachment are an essential check in the hands of the body, the legislature, against and upon the encroachments of the executive. The division between the two branches of the legislature, the House and the Senate, assigning to the one the right to accuse and to the other the right to judge. The framers of this Constitution were very astute. They did not make the accusers and the judges the same person. We know the nature of impeachment. We've been talking about it a while now. It is chiefly designed for the president and his high ministers to somehow be called into account. It is designed to bridle the executive if he engages in excesses. It is designed as a method of national inquest into the conduct of public men. The framers confided in the Congress the power, if need be, to remove the president in order to strike a delicate balance between a president swollen with power and grown tyrannical and preservation of the independence of the executive. The nature of impeachment, a narrowly channeled exception to the separation of powers maxim. The Federal Convention of 1787 said that. It limited impeachment to high crimes and misdemeanors and discounted and opposed the term maladministration. It is to be used only for great misdemeanors, so it was said in the North Carolina Ratification Convention. And in the Virginia Ratification Convention, we do not trust our liberty to a particular branch. We need one branch to check the other. No one need be afraid. The North Carolina Ratification Convention, no one need be afraid that officers who commit oppression will pass with immunity. Prosecutions of impeachments will seldom fail to agitate the passions of the whole community, said Hamilton in the Federalist Papers number 65. We divide into parties, more or less friendly or inimical to the accused. I do not mean political parties in that sense. The drawing of political lines goes to the motivation behind impeachment. But impeachment must proceed within the confines of the constitutional term high crime and misdemeanors. Of the impeachment process, it was Woodrow Wilson who said that nothing short of the grossest offenses against the plain law of the land will suffice to give them speed and effectiveness. Indignation so great as to overgrow party interest may secure a conviction, but nothing else can. Common sense would be revolted if we engaged upon this process for petty reasons. Congress has a lot to do. Appropriations, tax reform, health insurance, campaign finance reform, housing, environmental protection, energy sufficiency, mass transportation. Pettiness cannot be allowed to stand in the face of such overwhelming problems. So today we're not being petty. We're trying to be big because the task we have before us is a big one.
Greg, if I was a Democrat, I would have played that instead of me speaking.
Roland, first of all, thank you for showing that, brother. That's a lesson for all of us. Second of all, last night, as we heard Barbara Jordan, and you know us being Southerners, it's funny how these Negroes from the South somehow acquire this eloquent speech that transcends their dialect from home. Sheila Jackson Lee channeled Barbara Jordan last night.
Didn't she?
Val Demings channeled her last night. Cedric Richmond channeled last night. Even Hakeem Jeffries found his voice somewhere in the middle of today. But last night, it was the Congressional Black Caucus that channeled Barbara Jordan. But I thought it was interesting because, you know, having seen that many times, having read Barbara Jordan's words, you know, it occurred to me in that moment, that's beyond eloquence. That's an aspiration. But I don't think that had we been included, had Native Americans, people of African descent, and women of all backgrounds been included at the beginning of this settler project we call the United States, I don't think that we would be here today with this possibility to perfect it. Why? Because it required white elite men thinking they were talking to no one other than each other to be comfortable enough to try to aspire to something that transcended. Now, why do I say that's important in 2019? As we go through Barbara Jordan, 20 years later to Bill Clinton, 25 years later to where we are now, we are in a moment now where these white men have decided that they're going to choose their whiteness over this national experiment. And what we've been witnessing today and yesterday is that the Democratic Party and the Judicial Committee, but especially the Congressional Black Caucus, and a week ago to this day, Hank, you know, Brother Johnson was sitting right there, right here on this set. They have drawn a line that Gohmert and Jordan and this fool Getz and all them have decided, we know this is a lie, but we choose our whiteness over the principles that Barbara Jordan laid out. And we are willing to let this whole thing collapse before we will let this whiteness go. And that's what's really on trial today.
The yeas are 230. The nays are 197. Present is 1. Article 1 is adopted. On this vote, the yeas are 229, the nays are 198, present is 1. Article 2 is adopted.
Mark it down. A little after 8:30 p.m. Eastern on December 18th, 2019, Donald Trump became the third American president impeached That's right. It all happened as a result of him seeking out a foreign entity to help bring down a political rival. Now, of course, Republicans did all they could to try to stop it from happening, but the reality is Donald Trump, as Nancy Pelosi predicted, impeached himself. Now, Pelosi says she will wait to send it over to the Senate because Mitch McConnell hasn't gotten his stuff together.
Madam Speaker, do you view the House's role in this as complete now, or are there steps you might take to try to ensure, as the chairman suggested, a more fair trial in the Senate?
You mean more fair trial than they're contemplating? Because we had a very fair process in the House of Representatives. I would yield to our. Let me just put it another way. We have legislation approved by the Rules Committee that will enable us to decide how we will send over the articles of impeachment. We cannot name managers until we see what the process is on the Senate side, and I would hope that that will be soon, as we did with our legislation, our Resolution 660, to describe what the process would be. So far, we haven't seen anything that looks fair to us, so hopefully it will be fair, and when we see what that is, we'll send our managers.
Today, Pelosi held a news conference where she was asked, of course, about what took place last night. She pretty much said she doesn't give a damn what Republicans think.
Some Republicans have said of looking like you're playing games with impeachment if you hold on to these articles for too long.
I said what I was going to say, Nancy. When we bring the bill, which is, just so you know, there's a bill made in order by the Rules Committee that we can call up at any time in order to send it over to the Senate and to have the provisions in there to pay for the impeachment. And then the next step, whatever you want to call it, the trial. That is where you put the managers. I was not prepared to put the managers in that bill yet because we don't know the arena that we are in. Frankly, I don't care what the Republicans say. Any other questions? Not on this subject. I've said this is it. I honored Nancy.
Run the risk, as some Republicans have said, of looking like you're playing games with impeachment if you hold on.
So it's interesting, Nancy Pelosi makes it perfectly clear that she's not going to play games with Mitch McConnell. Let's go to our panel right now. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Also with us is Melanie Campbell, of course, she with the Black Women's Roundtable, and Michael Brown, former Vice Chair, DNC Finance Committee. Melanie, I want to start with you. Folks talk about Nancy Pelosi. She did not want last night to happen.
Right.
She held off for a very long time, but she managed this process in a way where, look, she's got the Republicans trying to figure out what the hell she's going to do next.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that Nancy Pelosi is the leader that was needed in this moment in history. She's boss. She's boss lady. But she's following the process. She's been really clear. It's been about the Constitution. It's been growing up in this country where all the white folks I grew up around talk about how the flag and how important it is to follow the rule of the law and all these kind of things, but only as it pertains to everybody else. And so it was a sad moment, you know, to watch it, because I've lived long enough to know that this was extremely serious what happened last night, but the president made sure that he was impeached. So she just had to do what her oath of office required her to do, and that's uphold the Constitution.
Greg Carr.
And do it for the American people.
Greg Carr, Democrats wanted her to impeach him after the Mueller report. She said no. I remember the comment she made, he is going to impeach himself. And he kept going, and he kept going, and he kept going, and he did. And people don't realize it was that phone call in September. And then first when the whistleblower came forward, Adam Schiff calls out the director of national intelligence. That's how this all came about. Donald Trump's actions caused last night.
They absolutely did. And the GOP has dropped all pretenses. That's why I think, as far as news and commentary is concerned, this is really the only place to have an intelligent conversation about this. I'm sitting next to a sister who has been part of a coalition who has been doing political analysis for a long time, and I need to go back and look at the Black Women's Roundtable and go, what have we been saying? What you've been saying? We've been trying to tell y'all this. There were only 2 articles yesterday that were approved, and only 3 Democrats, well, I guess 2 if you count this cat from New Jersey who's going to try to run on a Republican ticket, switched sides. Let's leave Tulsi Gabbard aside for a second. But there were only 2. The 10th article of impeachment for Andrew Johnson was for him saying that America's a white man's country, and as long as I'm president, it's going to remain a white man's government. That was the 10th article of impeachment in 1866 for him. And what did McConnell do today? Yeah. What did they say yesterday? They're on the floor of the United States House saying that even that was an overreach. So what the GOP has done is dropped all pretenses. So when Pelosi comes along, as you say, very calm, very temperament, and says, these are the 2 that you can't deny because of this whistleblower, as Schiff has done. And when she says, we're going to hold this back and let McConnell get his act together. I think about our brother Al Green, who's probably his first appearances were here on your airways, on your show, when he says, we could have got this guy at the beginning. But what you've taken away from the GOP is every hiding place except the one thing they have now put their entire government on the bedrock of, and that is what? This is a white man's government, and we're going to ride it till the wheels fall off.
And we're going to do it the way we want.
And we're going to do it the way we want.
Mike Brown, what is interesting here is now, first of all, McConnell talked too soon. Him and Lindsey Graham. We might call this thing up, immediately vote. So they saying to us right now, we'll do it before Christmas. This thing is out of the way. Now, she's going to sit back and say, what y'all got? Then what's going to happen is it's going to force those moderates in the Senate, Collins. It's going to force a Murkowski. It's going to force, for the moderates, but for whatever you want to call it, Romney. Those individuals are going to say, well, hold up. Are we going to call witnesses? What are the rules? How's this going to work out? That's the other piece there. And so she can sit on it and make them wait. Trial may not be till next October.
I think that's, and Cory Gardner, who you probably think, even though he's not a moderate, but his state is becoming much different. You're exactly right, and that just genius. I mean, we're watching Political 101 genius about how Nancy Pelosi
No. This doctorate level.
Okay, thank you.
This ain't 101.
Masters, you're right.
This 501, 601.
This is like a thesis.
PhD.
It's a thesis.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right.
She, depending how you look at speakers' history, Sam Rayburn, Tip O'Neill, and then Nancy Pelosi. She's in that group. And what she has done is put him, now they're always on the defensive now. We've never seen Republicans on defensive like we do now, especially this guy who's always, 45, always on the offensive. Now he's on the defense. He's going to avoid impeachment through Christmas holidays and possibly through the Iowa caucuses.
Lauren Victoria Burke and MPA joins us as well. Here's what you know, crazy man is unhinged. So last night, he's in Michigan. He attacks a dead man. Right. The longest serving member in U.S. House history. Yeah. Now you got 2 Republicans in Michigan saying, you need to apologize. Right. You insults the man widow. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't want anything. And not only is he always petty, but this is going to rankle him. It's going to drive him crazy. Right. Because impeachment will now be attached to his name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the idea that it somehow is going to benefit him, I think, is a ridiculous statement. Obviously, for the most part, people stay where they were. If you supported Trump, you supported Trump. If you was against him, you were against him. But I think, like, the saddest part of the entire thing is to watch the Republican Party in this moment. The Republican Party is embarrassing itself. It is the lowest point for them, easily the lowest point for them. Because if you notice during their little debate yesterday, there is nobody out there defending Donald Trump, the person. This is something that Chris Matthews brought up yesterday. It's very true.
Very much so.
No defense whatsoever of his behavior. No defense on the merit of any of the charges. No defense of this is a good man who wouldn't do this. None of that. Because they can't. They can't. And what's even more shocking is when you think about the fact that these 2 articles have nothing to do with treason, have nothing to do with emoluments, have nothing to do with obstruction, really direct obstruction of justice, which they could have very easily have brought up. So there's all these other things that they could have impeached him on that they didn't even get to. And these Republicans are standing out there. And, of course, you see the demographic divide right in front of your face with this party. Mostly white males defending the president. Not even a few white women thrown in there to sort of make it look good, because this is it. This is the party. This is the Republican Party, and it is embarrassing. And that new group that Rick Wilson and them set up, the Never Trump Republicans.
George Conway.
Good for them, right? Because those Never Trump Republicans, a lot of them are white men as well. But the point is, this party has just come down to desperation and defending Donald Trump, and that's it.
The day after, you know it's bad when you got Putin defending you.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When Putin is defending Trump, that's all you need to know.
Right.
As to where this man stands.
And the only one, the French, the Chinese, the English, China saying, we told y'all this is American democracy. What are y'all talking about? In England, they're saying, yeah, this is a problem. And they got Boris Johnson. You've leapfrogged over Boris Johnson. And to the point that you just raised, Lauren, this Lincoln Quartet that they've got, they were in the New York Times today. You know, that includes a man who was John McCain's principal advisor that loosed Sarah Palin on the world. Now y'all want to throw the rock and hide your hands? Yeah, good for y'all, but do not try to rehabilitate the Republican Party.
Right.
The Republican Party, which we were watching yesterday, I was talking back and forth between the House floor debate and Roland Martin Unfiltered. As y'all had the all-women panel breaking this down. I'm watching, as you said, these are all white men.
Right.
And so, yes, well, please.
And that's really what this is boiled down to be about.
Yes.
Because it didn't just start with the impeachment. It started when President Obama, in my opinion, was elected in the first place.
That's right.
So, Mitch McConnell has been very, very focused. He has not swayed at all. So he's taken it to the full extent to this moment. And it is about white men saying we will stay in power no matter at all costs. We will tear down this democracy we call this, as long as white men are in charge. And that's the image of that what I saw.
But see, it's gonna splinter, because when you can't even keep the husband of the president's advisor, you can't even keep George Will in the Republican Party.
That's right.
At some point, they are going to splinter. They can only hold this thing up for so long.
Well, and again, I keep reminding people, it's the guy who only won 78,000 votes.
Well,
see, everybody keeps focusing on his 43%. He only won by 78,000. And if you break that down, Hillary Clinton did not go to Wisconsin, which was idiotic. You get voter ID, then you get Pennsylvania and Michigan. And so literally, if you now start looking what Democrats have been able to do, what black folks were able to do.
Come on now.
Followed by Democrats in North Carolina.
That's
right.
Now you got Congressman Mark Meadows, Freedom Caucus, announcing today he's not running. Why? Because they broke the gerrymandering.
Come on, brother.
And now they are afraid to run in competitive districts.
Well, same thing with Mark Walker. So in North Carolina, of course, they finally fixed the map to some degree.
Right. So
now these people
North Carolina A&T is now in one congressional district. But again, what you're now dealing with is that Obama won North Carolina by 14,000 votes. Romney wins it in 2012. Trump wins in 2016. North Carolina could very well be definitely in play in 2020, like it was in 2008, because of the work of Reverend Barber, Moral Mondays, NAACP, Democracy in North Carolina, all those folks.
That's right.
And so that's why I keep trying to tell people, y'all keep talking about his base, but he only won by 78,000 votes in 3 states.
Well, they're outnumbered, and they know they're outnumbered. Yeah. Obviously, Hillary, I know obviously we know the Electoral College is the thing, but obviously she won by almost 3 million more votes. That would tell you that there's a huge problem with the Republican Party, because if you go back to 2000, obviously Al Gore and that whole, Gore basically won, right? So they're barely able to get by.
In fact, and Gore just won his home state. He's president.
Right. Correct. They're only able to get by on voter suppression.
Which is now
and
what
other
they're doing
games,
now.
right?
Look at Georgia.
Right.
The story you're going to cover today.
Right.
That's right. Now you can see the battleground states that are coming up now.
Right.
Georgia, the purge. We're seeing these, and so Lauren, it's very important that point you're making, because when you see what the GOP is doing, they know they can't win.
Right.
So they're not funding the census, but now we see millions of dollars in states that need to be having their count right, or they're spending money now, this country could very much fracture. We can't take 4 more years of Trumpism because the GOP is stacking the federal judiciary. One of the reasons the Democrats probably didn't go to court is because these judges were slow and slow. 13 this week.
And that's the piece.
While all this was going on.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
All right, folks, it's the holiday season. This is when you think about spending time with your family and friends. It's also when you count your blessings and support those less fortunate. This year, you can be a holiday hero and change someone's life forever. Right now, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why? Because they can't pay the bail. The reality is this: if you are able to pay your bail, you're more likely to have no charges brought against you as a result of that. But if you can't pay it, you're more likely to plead guilty. That's why the Ebony Foundation has partnered with the Bail Project and sponsoring the Home by the Holiday campaign. Their goal is to bail out 1,000 people between now and New Year's Day. You can make a donation to their effort to do so. All you got to do is go to homebytheholiday.com, homebytheholiday.com.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.